So recently we did a renovation project in the kitchen and we repainted all of the cabinets, we replaced the hardware on the cabinets, we got a new countertop and an undermount sink, and this made my wife a very happy wife. We were sitting in the kitchen one night and there was conversation going on and I said, is there anything else that you would want to do in here? And she came back and said, the only thing I could think of is I want to be able to turn those 4 lights into pendant lights. Now, not being a really experienced DIYer, I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine how much of an effort it's going to be to somehow convert those recessed can lights into pendant lights. Today, I want to do a product review on Worth Home's instant pendant lights. So we're going to start by unboxing one of them and showing how to set it up and configure it. And then I'm going to install all of them. And I'm going to turn my kitchen from this to this. Okay, so each of the pendant lights comes in a box like this, and I've gone ahead and cut this one open. And when I open it up, first thing I have is an instruction manual, of course, in a couple different languages. There's also a 20th anniversary postcard, and it gives you a 15% off any order of $100 or more. Go ahead and remove this top piece. All right, so we have the escutcheon here and the adapter, because this is actually a conversion kit that is going to give us a pendant light. And then you'll see that this is the actual cable here, and then this looks like the light socket for the bulb. Let me just cut this open here. Okay, so as you can see, we have the actual socket for the bulb. Go ahead and just take that off. Now, in this case, we went with the matte black finish because we liked the way that looked better. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of this piece of cardboard here. We don't need that. Throw that away. You can open this bag up here. And then we have the adapter on the top here. So we're going to go ahead and open this one up. Okay, so here's how this works. And this is why even someone like me can do this, so you definitely can do it. This is the adapter that you essentially are going to screw into the light socket of your existing recessed light. And then there is this little bar right here. And on this bar, you basically wrap up excess cable based on the height that you want your actual pendant light to end up at. So you just wrap it around, and then you pull this escutcheon up to the ceiling, and there is a compression nut right here that you're going to loosen and tighten based on when your light is in the correct orientation. Now, this is the end where the actual light bulb from your recessed light is going to plug into. So we're going to continue opening up the box here. And this is the actual dome or shade for the new light. So it's very nice matte black finish as well. And what we're going to do is remove this little nut here. And we're going to insert that into the dome and then just tighten this nut back up again. So that's how you basically put this whole thing together. Now, what I'm probably going to do to make it simpler so it's not as much weight hanging is I will wait to put the dome on when I install them. That way I can put that on at the end and have the weight kind of pulling down on that cable. So this is all that's in the box though, and it's very simple to install. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can set up and get ready to install it. Okay, so one of the things you're going to want to do first is take the assembled unit. Again, you can either put this dome on when I did, or you can do it after the fact. But what you're going to want to do is come up to where you're going to be installing this and figure out roughly how low you want it to hang. Now, one of the things that you can do is there is a compression nut right here that you can loosen, and then you can also unravel this cable to give you more length. In my case, I kind of want it to be roughly around here or so. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to wrap up the excess cable and get it ready to install into the actual can. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is figure out what length you want to have it at. So in my case, it's about a foot or so. So probably the easiest way to do this would be to measure, putting the pieces down like this and then getting a tape measure and measuring out, for example, a foot. Then what we need to do is we need to account for all of this excess cable that is inside of the escutcheon here. So the way we do this is we can just tighten this compression nut up a little bit so that this stays where we need it to stay. Don't over tighten it though, because it will break if you over tighten it. And what we're going to do is we're going to just start wrapping the excess cable. And this isn't really the greatest design in my opinion because it doesn't hold in place very well because the wire is somewhat rigid. But we're basically just going to wrap up all this excess cable that we don't need around this rod here. And when you're done, you want the cable to essentially be hanging in a centered orientation. So for example, like this. You can see that the cable is now hanging down in the center area rather than off to the right side or the left side. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do for this, just because I don't want it to unravel on me, is I'm going to use a tie wrap and actually just put a tie wrap around this to keep it secured. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, now that we're ready to put this in, we're going to make sure we removed the old light bulb from the socket. I'm going to loosen the compression nut that I had lightly tightened before, and I'm going to allow the escutcheon to fall down to the dome. So now all I have is this adapter to screw in, and I'm going to carefully screw it in. Make sure not to over tighten, but just the same way you would a light bulb. Okay, so you can see how that's sitting up in there right now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to show how you now take the escutcheon, bring it back up to the ceiling, tighten the compression nut so that it is flush with the ceiling. Okay, so we're going to pull the escutcheon up to the ceiling, kind of hold it in place and pull down a little bit. And then we're going to come up with that compression nut and just start to tighten the compression nut as we're pulling down on the cable. And now one of the complaints that I've heard of this product is that the escutcheon doesn't actually sit flush with the ceiling, but as long as you have the cable where it needs to be orientation wise, your light will hang properly and this compression nut will actually hold it in place. But you can see that there's nothing screwing this into the ceiling per se. So you may need to adjust this compression nut over time. Maybe the cable will sag a little bit, but because we've wrapped it around that rod and we tie wrapped it, the cable should actually stay in place. Okay, so now that I have that unit hung, what I'm going to do is just come over and plug in my light bulb. And just like that, I have an instant pendant light. It's connected up to my other lights, so the dimming and everything works. So I'm going to go ahead and install the remaining 3 of these and then show you the after shot with all 4 of them installed. So that one's a little lower, so I have to adjust the cable that I wrapped up, maybe by 1 turn. That looks about even. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the compression nut for this one as well. Again, when you do the compression nut, what you want to do is pull down on the cable and you'll feel a little like spring action from the rod up in the light socket. And then as you're putting the compression nut on, let the tension off the cable so that it pulls back up again. So there we go. We have 2 of them installed, 2 left. You'll notice that the nature of the problem is that the escutcheon is not sitting completely over the can. And the reason for that is likely because the cabling moved and it is no longer hanging in a centered orientation on that rod that we're wrapping things around. So I'm gonna have to take this apart and get that fixed. Okay, so this one I decided to wait to put the dome on to see if not having as much weight on would help, and it actually did help. I was able to get it oriented properly. So I'm gonna go ahead and just remove this nut that is in the light socket. And there's a little like paper washer in there just giving you warnings. So I'm going to go ahead and put the dome in the right place, and I'm going to screw that nut back on. This is why I probably would do this ahead of time, because it's more complicated this way. But I like to show both sides of the equation here. Go ahead and put my light bulb in. And there we go, number 3. So I do have chicken pot pies in the oven cooking, and they take 50 minutes to cook, and I started this project right after I put them in the oven. So I have 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. So I was able to hang these 4 pendant lights in the time it took to cook dinner tonight. So now to my overall thoughts on the Worth Home Instant Pendant Light Conversion Kits. I think for someone like me, a beginner DIYer who does little things around the house here and there, this was a very simple project for me to do. This product made it very easy. I will say from a product design perspective, there are areas that I feel that it can be improved. I think maybe providing a way that you can better accurately measure how long each thing is going to be before you actually hang it, whether it's marking something on the wire or having something that you can put in place to keep that spot so you know exactly where it needs to be. I will say the compression nuts they have to hold the escutcheons to the ceiling seem very, very weak, like the material that they're made out of. It's like plastic, almost like a rubbery. And the thread that they're screwing onto is also very weak. It looks like it's made out of plastic as well. So that could also be improved. I also think that maybe providing a way to have the escutcheon stick to the ceiling, whether it's with some kind of an adhesive ring that these come with, that you can take off if you want to take them off later down the road. But I think the objective of not screwing into the ceiling, we need to make sure that we don't have to do that, because then this product isn't as simple as it should be. But for what we were looking for to accent our newly remodeled kitchen here, these pendant lights add a much better ambiance to the area of the counter where we're typically preparing food and potentially having things out on the counter like in a buffet type style. So all in all, we're extremely happy. And I will also say too that they offer these in a variety of different types of styles. They have stainless ones, they have lights that look like chandeliers. There's all kinds of different styles you can look at. So check out the offerings that they have on Amazon.com. I believe other retailers sell them as well. I'll show you a little bit of what they look like on the screen here. But I hope you found this useful. Please like and subscribe to this content. Please comment if you've installed these or if you have any recommendations on how this could be even easier. And so if I can do this, you can definitely do it. Happy DIYing.